God doesn't want you to carry the weight of anxiety alone. And maybe that's exactly what's holding you back today. You wake up worried, go to sleep wondering how to solve everything, and deep down you feel like life is out of your control. But there's a powerful truth that can change that right now. When you surrender your anxiety to God, He takes control and begins to act where you no longer have the strength. It's not just talk, it's reality. How many times have you tried to solve everything on your own and nothing has happened? Well, today you'll discover why holding on to this burden only drags you down, and how God's Word reveals the secret to finally resting, even in the midst of chaos. What you'll hear here isn't theory, it's practical guidance to change your life. I'll show you how to transform anguish into peace, how to stop feeling that tightness in your chest, and begin to experience the lightness of knowing you don't have to fight alone. Imagine waking up tomorrow without that constant pressure, knowing there's someone bigger than you watching over every detail of your life. It's possible, and you'll understand the step you need to take to experience it today. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share could be the game changer you've been waiting for, and I'll go further. If you apply what you hear here, you'll notice God's presence taking care of things you thought were lost. This is where your anxiety loses its power, and God's peace begins to occupy your heart. Now you understand that surrendering your anxiety to God isn't just a theory, it's the real path to experiencing peace and seeing Him take care of every detail of your life. This content opened your eyes to a truth that can transform your days, and that's why it's worth giving back. Like and subscribe to the channel so this message continues to reach more people. Every gesture makes a difference, because just as you were touched today, many others also need to hear this. Click the button. Strengthen this chain of faith and get ready, because the next video will bring even more powerful revelations for your life. You know when you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders, and no matter how hard you try, you can't find rest. Anxiety does that to us. It creeps in, taking up every inch of our minds and hearts, until we start living as if we're in an endless race, always tired, always worried, always waiting for something bad to happen. The problem is that most of us insist on believing we can handle everything alone, as if we could handle every detail, every bill, every problem, every situation beyond our control. It's like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. Not only does it not solve the problem, but it only creates more frustration. And the curious thing is that this sense of control is never more than an illusion, because in practice, life remains out of our control. Anxiety has a silent power to steal not only your peace, but also your strength. Anyone who has spent nights awake, tossing and turning in bed, imagining every possible and impossible scenario, knows exactly what I'm talking about. You think about everything that could go wrong, make 1,000 plans to try to prevent things from going wrong, and in the end, you still feel that emptiness, that weight that won't go away. It's like being trapped in a never-ending cycle. But there's a truth many people don't understand. The more you try to control it, the more trapped you become in your own mind. It's like being in a maze going around in circles without realizing the exit is right there. But fear keeps you from seeing it. And this is precisely where the Word of God comes in as an answer, showing that this struggle doesn't have to continue. God never asked you to carry everything alone, never said the Christian life was an impossible burden. On the contrary, He always made it clear, "Cast your anxieties on me, for I care for you." Note this. Promise He cares. It's not that He'll think about caring, it's not that He might care if He has time, it's not conditional. He cares, period. But the problem is that most people don't truly believe this. We read it, hear it, even repeat it by heart, but deep down we continue living as if we were responsible for carrying the world on our shoulders. And that's when you need to stop and think, how long will you live this way, tied to something that only consumes you and never solves anything? When you understand that anxiety is an energy thief, you realize that it affects not just your heart or mind, but your entire body. How many people get sick because they can't control their worry? How many have chest pains, gastritis, hair loss, insomnia, simply because they haven't learned to let go of their burden? That's what makes this message so important. You weren't created to live in this constant state of suffocation. There is a way out. There is a way to breathe again and live lightly. But you have to make the decision to let go of the weight that isn't yours. It's like trying to carry a backpack full of rocks that don't even belong to you. Why keep walking like this if God has already given you the chance to let go of this burden? Now let me ask you something. How many times have you felt powerless trying to solve everything, and suddenly something unexpected happened that completely changed the situation? It could have been money that appeared at the right time, a door that opened when it seemed impossible, or even a problem that simply resolved itself. This isn't luck, this is God's care. It's Him showing He's present, even when you thought you were alone. And you know what the trick is? These situations usually happen when you stop trying to control everything and simply trust. That's when the miracle happens, and that's what you need to experience. Anxiety is silent proof that you're trying to live without complete trust, and the more you resist, the more tired you become. But when you begin to place every detail before God, something changes within you. It's not that problems magically disappear, but the way you deal with them transforms. You begin to have peace even when you don't yet see a solution, because you know you're in the right hands. This is much more than theory. It's real experience, and many have experienced this and testify that it was a turning point in their lives. Now, I want you to do something important to fix this inside. You, write the word here in the comments I deliver. That's right, write I surrender to declare that today you are willing to leave this burden in God's hands. It's not just a word, it's an act of faith. It's you accepting that you no longer want to carry what you don't need to carry. And each time you repeat this, the certainty that you're on the right path will grow stronger within you. And the most interesting thing is that when you start living this way, you discover that anxiety doesn't just disappear, but makes room for something much greater, the peace that comes from God. That peace that can't be explained, but that completely changes the way you see life. And that's what we're going to talk about next, because there's an even deeper secret that directly connects this peace to the way you strengthen your faith every day. After understanding how anxiety robs you of your strength and recognizing that God didn't call you to live this way, comes the most important step, truly surrendering your worries into His hands. And here, it's no use just paying lip service or repeating cliches. It's a real, conscious surrender that requires decision. Because let's face it, everyone says they trust in God, but in practice, they continue trying to control every detail, holding on to everything as if He couldn't solve it. It's like saying you believe a plane can fly, but never getting on it. Trust is only true when you put yourself in the seat, buckle up, and let the pilot guide. You surrendering your worries to God is exactly that, letting go of the need to have all the answers and trusting that He already has them covered. But this is one of the hardest things for human beings to do, because we've been accustomed to believing we have to handle everything. From an early age, we hear that we have to be strong, have to solve things, have to fight alone. And this have to becomes an unbearable weight. But the truth is, you don't have to handle anything alone, because there is someone much greater willing to carry this burden in your place. When you finally understand this, something changes. It's not just a feeling, it's a liberation. And this is where one of the greatest teachings I've ever heard comes in. It's not enough to pray asking, you have to surrender and leave it in God's hands. Many people pray but end the prayer the same way they started, full of worry. It's as if they say, Lord, I'm surrendering this problem, but then immediately pick it back up and put it back on their shoulders, and then nothing changes. Have you ever done this? Have you ever asked God to take care of something and then gone back to worrying as if He hadn't heard? This is the most common mistake. True surrender happens when you truly let go, when you decide to stop reliving the problem in your mind and trust that He is already taking care of it. And you know what's interesting? When you practice this true surrender, you notice an immediate change. It's not that the situation resolves itself immediately, but the weight inside you disappears. It's like lifting a bag of stones off your back after walking miles. Your breathing changes, your mind clears, and hope returns. And that's precisely when God begins to act, because you've left space for Him to work. The control that was once in your hands is now in the right hands, and this opens the door to miracles. Now let me give you a clear example. How many times have you tried with all your might to solve a problem? Expended energy, lost sleep, talked to people, made plans, and nothing worked. But then when you gave up and said, God, it's in your hands, things started to fall into place. It's almost automatic. Not because you gave up, but because you trusted. That's the difference, and this needs to become a practice in your life. It's not just a pretty phrase, it's a daily practice. You might be thinking, But how do I do this in practice? How do I truly surrender? It's simple, but it requires courage. First, you speak to God, open your heart without a mask, without repeating memorized phrases, and say exactly what's taking away your peace. Then you declare out loud that you're surrendering it. But the most important thing is your attitude after prayer. You don't go back to your routine brooding over the problem. You return with the certainty that He's already heard. This is what shows the difference between someone who just talks and someone who truly surrenders. And here, I want to open a space for you to interact with me. Write the word in the comments, I trust. That's right, I trust. Because when you write, you turn what's in your heart into action. It's a step of faith, a concrete way of saying, I no longer want to live trapped in anxiety. I trust that God is taking care of me. This simple gesture already begins to change your mindset, and each time you repeat it, the conviction that you don't have to carry the weight alone will grow stronger within you. Surrender is not an isolated act, but a lifestyle. You'll notice that the more you practice, the lighter it becomes, and over time, what once kept you awake at night no longer holds sway. Anxiety fades because trust takes its place, and when this happens, you begin to experience something much greater than simply having no worries. You experience the peace that comes from God. This peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, that remains even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. And it's precisely this peace that we need to talk about, because it's concrete proof that surrender works, and that you'll never again have to live in the suffocation that once seemed normal. When you truly surrender your worries, something supernatural begins to happen. Faith becomes the foundation of your life. And here I need to be very direct with you, because many people confuse faith with feeling. Faith isn't waking up happy every day, nor living without doubts, nor feeling that everything is fine all the time. Faith is a decision. It's choosing to believe that God is watching over you, even when your eyes can't see anything happening. It's like walking on solid ground, even without seeing the whole path. Feelings change, circumstances change, but faith remains because it doesn't depend on what you feel or see. It depends on who you choose to trust. Think about it. How many times have you waited to feel peace before believing things would work out? How many times have you said, when I feel more confident, then I'll believe? The problem is that when never comes because feelings are fickle. Today you might be excited, and tomorrow you wake up feeling insecure. If your life is based solely on feelings, you'll live like a roller coaster, constantly going up and down. Faith breaks this cycle because it doesn't rely on what you feel, but on what God has promised. And He never fails. This is where many get lost. They want to wait for emotional certainty before trusting, but the order is reversed. First you decide to trust even without feeling anything, and then peace comes. Faith is the key that opens this door. And this isn't just theory, it's practice. When you make a firm decision to believe that God is watching over you, something inside you changes. Your heart slows down, your mind calms, and you discover that you no longer need to be trapped by that constant anguish. I know it's hard sometimes. You look at the bill you need to pay, the diagnosis you've received, the problem at home, and your mind screams there's no way out. But faith speaks a different language. It says God is already taking care of things, trust. And then you have two choices. Believe what your eyes show, or believe what God has promised. This is the great battle. Anxiety will always try to drag you to the side of fear, but faith is the arm that pulls you to the side of trust, and you need to decide which side you'll be on. And here comes a powerful lesson that needs to be engraved in your mind. Faith is not passivity. Trusting in God doesn't mean sitting back and waiting. It means acting based on the certainty that He is in control. It's different. Those who have faith work, study, and plan, but don't carry the burden of the outcome. It's like a farmer planting a seed. They do their part, but know that growth comes from God. The farmer doesn't dig the ground every day to see if the seed is growing, because that would kill the plant. They trust the process, water it, and care for it, but let time and God's hand do the rest. It's exactly like that with your life. And let me ask you something now. Are you living more by faith or by fear? Be honest with yourself. This answer can change everything. Write the word in the comments decision to make it clear that today you have decided to walk by faith, not fear. This simple word will be like a milestone, a turning point in your story. Every time you read or write, I decide, you are reinforcing within yourself that the choice has already been made, to live by trust, not anxiety. And do you know what happens when that decision becomes firm? Life begins to have a stability you've never experienced before. The world may be in crisis, the news may be bad, people may doubt, but within you lies an unshakable certainty. God is watching over you, and this certainty is what sustains you when everything seems to be falling apart. It's what keeps you steady when everyone around you is in despair. Faith, when grounded in God, completely changes the way you face your days. You're no longer driven by fear of what might happen, because you know that every detail is in His hands. And that's precisely what paves the way for the next step, because when you learn to live by faith, you discover that there's a powerful weapon to strengthen that decision every day. And that weapon is much closer to you than you imagine. Faith only remains strong when it is nourished daily, and this is where one of the greatest weapons you have at your disposal comes in: prayer. I'm not talking about praying automatically, repeating words that don't even cross your mind. I'm talking about opening your heart before God, as if you were talking to someone close and trusted. Prayer isn't a burdensome ritual. It's a place of refuge where you can pour out your worries, your fears, your doubts, and at the same time receive peace and guidance. The problem is that many people still view prayer as a last resort, only seeking it when everything has gone wrong. But the truth is, the sooner you learn to place every detail before God in prayer, the lighter your life becomes. Think about how many times you've brooded over a problem alone, trying to find a solution that never came until, after much suffering, you decided to pray. And soon after, even though the situation didn't change immediately, the weight inside you lifted. This isn't a coincidence. It's a result of prayer. Prayer doesn't just change what's around you. It changes what's inside you first. Your mind calms, your heart slows, and you can see things differently. Prayer is the channel that connects your anxiety to God's care. It's as if you've placed the problem in the right hands and feel the immediate relief of no longer having to carry it alone. And it doesn't stop there. Prayer opens the door to something even more powerful: intimacy with God. When you pray constantly, you begin to recognize His voice, perceive signs, and understand His paths. This intimacy is what sustains your faith on difficult days, because you no longer live solely on memories or stories you've heard, but on real experiences. Those who truly pray have living testimonies to share, and this creates a solid foundation to weather any storm. Now let me tell you something that happens a lot. Some people say, "I pray, but I don't feel anything." But prayer isn't about feeling, it's about believing. Often you don't realize it at the time, but each prayer is like a seed planted, and in due time it bears fruit. The danger lies in giving up before seeing the results. It's like someone who plants, waters for a few days, and thinking it won't work, pulls out the seed. Those who do this never reap. But those who persevere in prayer, even without seeing it, end up experiencing answers that go beyond their imagination. And this perseverance is essential because prayer also protects your mind. Every time you pray, you are nourishing your faith, and the more faith you have, the less room there is for anxiety. A mind filled with God's presence leaves no room for fear to dominate. That's why people of prayer have a different radiance, a peace that seems insignificant to outsiders. They face crises, but they don't collapse. They cry, but they don't give up. They fall, but they get up, because they know they are not alone. Here comes something that can change your outlook on life: testimonies of transformation. How? Many stories have you heard of people who were in impossible situations and, through prayer, saw doors open, healings occur, relationships restored. This is not a myth. It is not an invention. It is the fruit of a life connected to God. And the most impressive thing is that these people were no different from you. They didn't have superpowers. They simply decided to live a life of true prayer, and God answered. And now I want you to be a part of this too. Write the word here in the comments area. It's as simple as that. I pray. This word is like a public declaration, showing that you've decided to make prayer your daily weapon against anxiety and everything that tries to steal your peace. Every time someone writes this, they strengthen not only themselves but also others who are reading it, and realize they are not alone on this journey. The most beautiful thing is that when you see testimonies of transformation, you realize that prayer is not a monologue, but a dialogue. It's your chance to speak to God, and also hear what He has to say. And this is where everything becomes even more powerful, because prayer opens space for real experiences, for a living faith that doesn't depend on what the world says. This practice prepares you to see things from a new perspective, but there's an even deeper point we need to address, because there's no point in having faith, letting go of your worries, and even praying constantly if you don't learn to sustain that faith in an even more intimate way. There's a hidden secret there, something that keeps trust alive even in the darkest hours. After all this, the decisive moment arrives, surrendering everything completely and definitively into God's hands. So far, you've understood that anxiety robs you of your strength, that faith is key, that prayer strengthens your trust, and that testimonies show how God truly cares. But now comes the most practical and, at the same time, most challenging part. Stop harboring reservations and make a complete surrender, because it's easy to surrender some things, those that seem small, but true transformation happens when you place everything before Him, even the things that hurt the most, and that you insist on hiding. Many people pray and trust in some areas, but in others they remain closed-handed. It's like giving someone a key to their house, but hiding a locked room, afraid to let God in. But it's precisely in this dark room that He wants to act. There's no such thing as partial surrender. Either you truly trust, or you remain trapped by the weight you were never meant to carry. It's hard to hear, but it's true. Until you relinquish control, anxiety will continue to suffocate you. Peace only comes when you surrender completely. And what does this total surrender mean? It means ceasing to struggle alone. It means ceasing to carry the burden that is no longer yours. It means declaring, "Lord, my life is in your hands." It means placing before Him your family, your work, your finances, your health, your relationships, your dreams, your fears, everything. Nothing is left out. And when you do this, you experience something priceless, the lightness of knowing you are no longer alone. This is the difference between merely talking about faith and living it out in practice. Let me give you a clear example. Imagine someone who has a huge debt, something that keeps them awake at night. This person prays, but deep down they keep trying to solve everything alone, drowning in worries and unable to see a way out. Now imagine this same person deciding to truly surrender the situation to God. They continue to do their part, but without carrying the anguish. Anxiety gives way to trust, and suddenly doors open, ideas emerge, help appears. It's not magic. It's a consequence of surrender. When you take the weight off your shoulders and place it in the right hands, everything changes. This is where the Word comes alive. When you decide to truly trust, you begin to see God working in details that previously went unnoticed. An unexpected call, a simple solution to a seemingly impossible problem, a new strength within you to face the day. This is how He works, and that's why surrender must be complete. You can't hold on with one hand and try to deliver with the other. It's all or nothing. Now I want you to make a symbolic gesture with me. Write the word in the comments, "I deliver everything." Not just, "I surrender," but "I surrender everything." Because this declaration isn't for others, it's for yourself. It's your turning point. It's you saying, "It's over. I don't want to carry this weight anymore. Today, I leave everything in God's hands." This simple act can be the beginning of a radical change, and each time you declare it, you'll feel lighter and more at peace in your heart. Today you saw that surrendering your worries to God isn't theory. It's a practice that truly transforms, bringing peace where before there was only anxiety. This message has already begun to create change in your heart, and just as it strengthened you, you can be an instrument for others to find this relief. So subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Trust, showing that you've decided to live by faith, not fear. Every gesture you make helps this chain reach more lives. And if what you learned today was already so powerful, know that in the next video, there's an even more powerful revelation waiting for you. Click and continue this journey, because what's to come will surprise you even more.